Yo, 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 what's going on, everybody? Welcome to Waiver Wire. Man, it's getting crunch time. We got 3 more weeks for the fantasy football playoffs. So, we're going to go ahead and bring in Marco Nunez from Evolve Athletic, former Lakers head athletic trainer, to talk about what we could do, man, for the final 3 weeks to get in the playoffs. If not, I'm in 4 leads. 3 of my leads, I'm completely out. So, so Marco, how you doing today?
I'm doing well. Like I said, it's week 11, so at this point in your fantasy football season, you're either pretty much out of it, you're sitting pretty for the playoffs with you just maybe need one more win, or you're kind of battling right now. You're like 5-6 or 6-5, trying to battle for the last 6th or 5th final spot of your playoffs, depending on what your league does.
Yeah, looks like I have one more player to go. I'm playing you, Marco, in our fantasy football league.
Yeah,
And
it's not looking good though.
I have a 1% chance of winning. So unless Uke, is the quarterback and the receiver and the running back, looks like I'm gonna say you early congratulations, man.
Appreciate it. But you know what? In this case, I think my points are far enough that I don't think you do anything. But trust me, I've been playing fantasy football that there was one Monday night game. I think I told you the stories that I had a 99% chance of winning, the other percent a 1% chance. They had the running back, and that quickly flip-flopped within seconds, and then I lost the game. So go figure.
Yeah,
so it's
I'm
possible.
down. Ooh, I'm down. Well, Kareem Hunt did score 55 points a couple of weeks ago, didn't he? Because I'm down about 50 points right now.
It's possible.
So, yeah, let's see. Hey, come on out, Uke. Anyway, man. So, and let's get into this week's injury. Let's talk about Kyle Pitts with his knee.
Yeah, so we'll start with Kyle Pitts, tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. He injured his knee. It doesn't look good, but they're hoping that there's no ACL or anything of that sort. He wasn't seen leaving with crutches, something like that. They're being a little optimistic, but they expect him to be out for at least a couple of weeks or so. So Kyle Pitts actually just started being Kyle Pitts, like the 2021 season. I think this weekend and the last weekend he actually started scoring a little touchdown, had some receptions. Prior to this, he wasn't doing much, but right when he started becoming Kyle Pitts, everybody drafted him to be their tight end. He ends up with the knee injury, so it's just a matter of waiting and see what the MRI shows, and then kind of going based on that.
Yeah, well, that's good. At least he was able to walk out of his own power, right? We hear
from my understanding, everything that I read, yes.
Good. Well, that's a good thing. So maybe he'll be back. Joe Nixon, we've been talking about concussions all year round, so all year. So same protocol. We gotta wait and see how long we may be able to play next week, depending on how he does throughout the week.
Correct. So yeah, Joe Mixon, and the funny part about this, I was listening to the game, and actually I was thinking about you because a conversation we had way back with Tua. Apparently, they had an independent neurologist on the field that he was examined by. Again, wasn't part of the team, so it'd be interesting if it's the same neurologist that did everybody else. So we'll see what happens. But bottom line, Joe Mixon was diagnosed with a concussion, so he's going to go into the NFL concussion protocol. Like I mentioned before, usually these concussion protocols are a minimum of 5 to 7 days. So depending on how his symptoms kind of pan out and he feels better, there's a very good chance that he can play for week 8. But there are some contingencies you can do if you do owe Joe Mixon. And we're going to talk about this as far as the waiver wire pickups later in the show.
All right, great. Let's go into Chase Edmonds. What do we think?
Yeah, so Chase Edmonds left the game with an ankle injury. Now, granted, Chase Edmonds isn't a workhorse running back. He's not one of their key components. He's kind of like a three-headed monster, like we mentioned before. But what's kind of weird, what happened this week as far as some of the injuries, is that some of the injuries happened to some of the players that were like a part of a committee or a three-headed monster type of thing. So that kind of, and I feel bad saying that, that's kind of excluded that player, and I'd opened up the window for if you had a player or you want to go get a player. So now I went from like a three-headed monster to a two-headed monster, or all of a sudden went from a committee to now you have a workhorse running back type of thing. Right. that's kind of what happened. We're going to talk about this. I think Khalil Herbert happened to last weekend. If you had Montgomery on your roster, Montgomery hasn't been doing well all year, but now that Khalil Herbert's out, Montgomery becomes your workhorse, and now he's shining. He had a great game this weekend in Week 11. So that's what happened to Chase Edmonds. We're going to talk about this also in the part of the pickups later down the show.
Yeah, like everything is so strategic nowadays, right? So
Yep.
you like you said, you have people going in and out, and then we have to rely on that one person, and they do great for you, and then they have breakout seasons. Like I think Pollard, for example, for the Cowboys, he's just breaking out. He killed in Mother Fantasy League. I think he got like 35 points, 36
Yeah,
points, and
he had two. He had 2 touchdowns. I think had over 102 receiving yards. Plus, he had rushing yards. Right now, he's looking. I mean, if you drafted Tony Pollard, I mean, you're looking like a genius right now, type of thing. Or if you even picked him off on the waiver wire. Now Zeke's still going to get some touches. I think Zeke still got 2 touchdowns, stuff like that. He's going to take away, but you can tell Pollard is clear cut the number 1 running back there, or number 1B if you want to call it, because I think Jerry Jones refuses to admit that Zeke is pretty much on the way out, and totally Pollard's going to be their new running back for the future, type of thing. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that definitely is going to happen. But he likes to never be the bad guy.
Correct.
Anyway, let's go back into the Clyde Edwards-Helaire with his ankle.
Correct. Same thing. So he was part of a 3-headed monster with Isaiah Pacheco and Jerick McKinnon. Now with Clyde Edwards-Helaire having ankle sprain and also being out, he had it early in the game. He left the game, never returned. There hasn't been an indication what type of ankle sprain it is, whether it's a high ankle sprain, just a mild or second-degree ankle sprain. So they're going to probably do an MRI and try to determine that. But again, being a 3-headed monster, if he is out for a couple of weeks, now that opens up the window for 2 other running backs that you can go and pick up at the waiver wire that are available in over 50% of most leagues.
Okay, let's go to Kadarius Toney. His hamstring.
Yeah, Kadarius Toney, wide receiver with the New York Giants, same thing. Again, he's not a key component player that a lot of people probably have on their roster. But again, he's one of the receivers I was taking. I'm sorry, I apologize. Kadarius Toney is now with the New York Giants. He got traded with the Kansas City Chiefs, so he's a receiver in there. But again, same thing. He has a hamstring injury, so he's going to be out for some period of time. But that opens up the window for other receivers, especially when Juju Smith comes back next weekend. Hopefully, comes back next weekend from his concussion. That's going to open up the window for him. Or if you have Travis Kelce, that's why Travis Kelce ended up with 3 touchdowns this Sunday night during Sunday Night Football, because they were missing some of the receivers. Actually, missing 3 of the key receivers: Kadarius, Herdman, and Juju.
Yeah, and that's Juju hurt me because I really needed him to play, for some leads for me. But he just went out there, man. Mike Williams, man, is he ever coming back?
Well, this is the interesting part about it. So Mike Williams tried playing in Week 11. He and I think Keenan Allen came back. Keenan Allen had a great game during Sunday Night Football. But Mike Williams had a high ankle sprain that I think he did about 2 weeks ago, and they had reported that he started practicing with the team. Now, most high ankle sprains take anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks to come back from. He came back in about 3 weeks, which if he was feeling great, that's awesome. But it sounded like he might have tweaked that ankle. So the question is now, is there a huge setback? Meaning, is he going to try to come back next week, or is he going to have to take another full 4 weeks to try to kind of return again? If that's the case, then he's going to probably be out for the rest of the fantasy football season, and hopefully he returns for the fantasy football playoffs if you do have Mike Williams on your roster.
Yeah, so my recommendation, I wouldn't play Mike Williams because that he came in, he made 1 catch, and he's out. So
correct.
I wouldn't. I don't think he'll be ready for the at least the fantasy football playoffs.
I agree, and that's one of the issues whenever you have an athlete or a player for the NFL that kind of returns earlier than expected, type of thing. They're risking any re-injury or any setback, and if you're a fantasy manager that you have him, by putting him on your roster in your lineup, the starting lineup, now you're risking that. Yes, he is playing Mike Williams. If Mike Williams 100%, you throw him in there. But if he's not, then you're kind of gambling. Okay, is he going to be able to survive? Is he in the pitch count? What if he gets re-aggravates something? Then he's out, and this is exactly what happened. He was out there for 1 play, re-aggravated. If you started him, now he's out for the rest of the game.
Yeah, and then you can't take your player out like he
Nope.
take a player out. Man, they need
Correct.
to make that new rule. Let's go into Jalen Warren.
Yeah, so Jalen Warren, running back for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is another example, same thing. He was starting to kind of steal some of not the spots, some of the carries from Najee Harris. They were kind of starting to lean towards Jalen Warren a little bit. There was rumors that Jalen Warren's going to get more touches compared to Najee Harris, but once he got hurt and once he pulled his hamstring, so they've been diagnosed with a hamstring injury. Again, most of these hamstring injuries can be very tricky. He's expected. They haven't really said whether it's a first, second degree, but expect him to be out anywhere between 2 to 4 weeks. Now that Jalen Warren's kind of out of the picture, so to speak, Najee Harris went off on this weekend. He had huge numbers. So if you're a Najee Harris manager, if you have him on your roster, he should probably kind of pretty much become an official workhorse like he should have been at the beginning and get you all the carries.
Yeah, Najee Harris was somebody I drafted in one of my other leagues, and
Yep.
What I love about him, he's consistent. He's going to give you. He may not give you that blow up game, 25 points, but he's
Correct.
definitely going to give you 10 to 15 every week consistently. And sometimes you need to have players like that on your roster. That's going to give you consistent versus the up and down 25 points and you get 3 points the next week is no good. Those players just drive me crazy.
I agree with you 1,000%. I would rather take a player that's consistent, will give me the same amount of points, whether it's 14, 15, 16 points every single week, and I know that's what I'm going to get from him, versus a player that'll give me 55 points one week, gives me 2 points like 3 weeks in a row, then comes back, gives me 30 points. Because those players, you can't really, especially if you're going to go in the playoffs, it's very hard to be dependent on those players because you don't know where you're going to get from them. They can go off week one, and then you get to the championship, and during the championship, they give you a goose egg, and then boom, you're done. Your hopes just went from here all the way down there.
Yeah, because it's crunch time now. We got to win these games to get into the playoffs because I'm in like 3 leagues have money involved. So man, I gotta you have to make that right decision. Like today, I didn't make a good decision. I decided not to play Olave, and he went off, and who I put in for. Was it? So like those kill me, man. Oh, it kills me. And anyway, Wan'Dale Robinson.
So Wan'Dale Robinson, this is the receiver for the New York Giants. Again, he's not a popular receiver. Most people don't have him on his roster, but the reason why I put him on here, he did have a knee injury. Now, the downside to this is he left the game in crutches, so that's not a good sign. So he's probably expected to be out a longer period than normal. They're going to do an MRI to kind of go see what's going on. But the reason why I put him on here, again, he is one of the receivers that we're going to talk about as far as on the waiver wire pickup later, as far as the pickups. There's another receiver that has been becoming the number one receiver now with Wan'Dale Robinson out. You can go ahead and pick the other receiver up that we're going to talk about, and he should be more of a standout now.
Yeah. We're going to get into the updates right after this. We're going to run a couple commercials. Stay tuned with this. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Renee Starms of the Starms Agency. Do you know why 97% of startups fail? It's because they don't have the proper exposure. So for the first time ever, Infinity Studios and the Starms Agency have come together to provide you with the Little Guys Big Marketing Package. Now, this is for local Los Angeles businesses who are ready to launch, relaunch, or simply expose their business to grow. With this package, you're going to receive 6 months of online and offline marketing tactics in a customized plan for your business. You're also going to get a professional TV quality commercial filmed in an 1,800 square foot studio with multiple screening options. So if you're ready to grow, go ahead and click that link. We also have financing available. I'm looking forward to chat with you. Click the link and let's go.
All right, we're back. Hey, Zach Ertz, man, is he coming back? Because I had no tight end. I had to, at the last minute, I had to go find someone, a free agent, and just threw him in as tight end, and it didn't go well for me either. So, what's up, man? Is Zach gonna be back next week?
No, so Zach Ertz right now, he's had a knee injury. They expect him to be out several weeks, so I'd be very surprised if he returns by next week. He's expected to be out probably at least a minimum of 2, if not up to 4 weeks, type of thing. So that's kind of cuts into the fantasy football season type of thing. You still don't want to drop him. You want to keep him. Hopefully, he'll be able to be back for you or help you during the playoffs if you're into the playoffs. Otherwise, there's no need for him. Go ahead and drop him and try to pick up another tight end.
Yeah, he really hurt me because it's tight ends are far in between for as far as productivity, because that's one of those positions where if the starting tight end is hurt, then the quarterback just doesn't throw to that backup tight end. You know what I mean? So it's kind of really, they kind of just change their game plan about not using the main tight end.
Correct. And there's only like maybe 1 or 2 teams that might use their backup tight end type of thing like you're talking about, but you can't replace a Zach Ertz, you can't replace a Mark Andrews, you can't replace a Travis Kelce type of thing. When those guys get hurt, well, I don't even want to say Mark Andrews might be the exception because with the Baltimore Ravens, Isaiah Likely, they used him a lot and they actually got a touchdown when he was out. But other than that, it's rare that you can replace the tight end unless you have like a 2 tight end like Bill Belichick tends to have type of thing. But yeah, it's tough.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about Jerry Jeudy and with those Broncos, man. Last week we talked a lot about not picking any Broncos, and there was a certain Bronco where I may have them in my pickup list because I never heard of them that went off this week. But anyway, Jerry Jeudy.
Yeah, so Jared Jeudy, wide receiver for the Denver Broncos, he sustained an ankle injury, but they kind of categorized not necessarily ankle injury. What they reported is that he was having discomfort on the back of his ankle, kind of more like an Achilles tendonitis type of thing. He's expected to return to practice this upcoming week and hopes if everything goes according to plan, he's expected to return to the lineup in week 12.
All right, that's good, man, for the people that still have him. I think I still have him on my bench, man. Khalil Herbert for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, so Khalil Herbert, running back for the Chicago Bears, sustained a hip injury. They haven't really disclosed exactly what it is. It may be like hip impingement or something of that sort. But bottom line, it was a significant injury that they placed him on IR. And if the athlete's on IR, that means that he's out for a minimum of 4 weeks. So you're talking about him being out for week 11, 12, 13, 14. That's pretty much the rest of the fantasy football season. If you have Khalil Herbert and you're pretty much battling for the playoff spot, he's not going to help you try to get in there, but you can either try to hold on to him to try to save him for the playoff type of thing. But even then, that doesn't guarantee that he will be back for sure in 4 weeks. On the other hand, if you have David Montgomery, right now you are sitting pretty because David Montgomery went off now that Khalil Herbert's out. He took all the carries. He was definitely the workhorse for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, let's go into Cooper Kupp, man. I mean, looks like the Rams season is almost over, or based on their record. I mean, I don't even think they're going to make the playoffs unless they, maybe get a wild card. What do you think?
It's going to even be tough to get a wild card right now, the way they're playing, type of thing. Yeah, so Cooper Kupp, probably their only fantasy football worthy player you might have right now, which is kind of sad to say because winning the Super Bowl from last year to this year, you would think they would have a lot more players. But yeah, Cooper Kupp sustained an ankle injury. He had what's called a high ankle sprain. Usually you're out for about 4 to 6 weeks minimum. He went ahead and opted to have surgery. He had what's called a tightrope technique. A high ankle sprain is when you have the 2 bones on the side of the ankle kind of separate. So what they did a tightrope technique where they kind of tighten it together and kind of hold it in place. A normal recovery time is anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. There have been some players that have been able to return in 4 weeks. I think Tua with the Miami Dolphins, I think when he was down in when he was playing college football, he had the same injury. He came back in about 28 days. So it's possible to come back in 4 weeks if that's the case. Again, if you're sitting Purdy for the playoffs, definitely hold on to him. He may be able to return and help you, like in the second round or if not in the championship game. But if you're nowhere near the playoffs, he's out definitely for minimum for the fantasy football season, minimum 4 weeks.
All right. Well, yeah, that's not good for the Rams for many reasons. As definitely not good for the people who have them in the fantasy football. Let's go to Juju. He had a concussion. He'll probably be back next week, though, right? It's been
Yeah, so
it would have been
correct.
like 10 days by then, right?
Correct. Oh, definitely. Yeah. So, I mean, depending on the symptoms and then hoping that he clears the concussion protocol, meaning he's symptom free, he goes through the whole entire thing. He's expected to return for week 8. I'm sorry, week 12 of the fantasy football season.
All right. So let's go into Leonard Fournette. You know the thing about that, his injury, I'll never forget when Bo Jackson got hurt and he said,
Ooh.
"Oh, I have a hip pointer and I'll be all right." And then he never came back. And so, what do we think about Leonard Fournette with this hip pointer?
Yeah, so if it is what's called a true hip pointer, meaning if you look at the side of your hip and you have that bone kind of sticking out, that issue right there type of thing, you can bruise it. Like either you land on it, you get hit by a helmet on it, you get tackled on it, or anything whatsoever like that. Now, a hip pointer can be very uncomfortable, especially it's very tender if someone hits it again. Now, the positive thing about this is that they had a bye week in week 11, so it gave Leonard Fournette some time to be able to recover, to feel better type of thing. Now, when it comes down to a hip pointer, it just comes down to pain tolerance. Like I mentioned, the sports medicine team will go ahead and provide some extra padding in that area to try to protect that area, but you can't put too much padding because obviously the running back needs to be able to, kind of move his arm. You don't want anything blocking on that part. So it's going to come down to pain tolerance. See how you can do. He's expected to come back in week 12. Like I said, having a bye in week 11 actually helped him a lot.
All right, man, the Raiders, man. Hunter Renfrow. There was a whole lot of issues, but Hunter Renfrow, let's talk about him.
But on a positive note, they did get a win today. So
yeah, I know, but we need a couple in a row though. We just need a couple in the world. It's just it's frustrating to be a Raider fan. But Hunter Renfrow, let's talk about him.
All right, so it's one win, so now we can start a streak. So Hunter Renfrow sustained what's called a oblique strain. So you have muscles in your stomach, so to speak, your abdominal muscles. The one that you see kind of six pack, that's the abdominis rectus muscles. The one on the side, the ones kind of do more rotation type of thing, he's strained with the oblique muscles. Now, coming back from any type of abdominal strain can be very tricky because you can utilize your muscles in that area just to support you type of thing. So I expect him to be out several weeks from this injury. It's not going to be something easy for him to come back from.
All right, Romeo Doubs. He has a high ankle sprain. He's out 4 to 6 weeks. Forget him for fantasy football.
Correct. So Romeo Doubs, I think, sustained this injury about 2 weeks ago. So he's 2 weeks into it. So if you do have him, you could probably expect him to come back as early as week 14? Week 13. So as early as week 13. So if you need him for the last week 14, you got to get a win because you got to try to make it to the playoffs. He can possibly help you. But on the other hand, Lazard's out there. And Christian Watson is going off these past 2 weekends, so I don't know how much you're going to hurry Dobbs back in there, type of thing. Because, like I said, right now the Watson Rodgers connection is like 3 games. He's had 5 touchdowns in 2 games, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we definitely have to see. But fantasy football, I wouldn't recommend them at all. That's just me. Ja'Marr Chase with this hip injury.
Yeah, so Ja'Marr Chase sustained a hip injury. They said he was going to be out of anywhere between 4 to 6 weeks. Now, everything that I've kind of read out there, they've been very positive about it. They expect him, or they're hoping that he may be able to return to practice as early as this week. So it's just a matter of seeing that. Now, just because he returns to practice doesn't mean he's going to be ready for week 12. Most likely, he probably won't be. The earliest probably week 13, if not week 14 type of thing. So, but it's just a matter of keeping an eye on him. They feel that he's actually improving better, quicker than they expected, which is a positive note. So if you do have Ja'Marr Chase, you could hopefully expect him to be able to return in your lineup for the playoffs, if not maybe as early as week 14.
Yeah, I mean, and he's a big guy for the offense too. Yeah, so
Oh,
we definitely gonna
huge.
try to get him.
Yeah.
Yeah, Darren Waller, tight end for the Raiders.
Another Raider. He's been placed on IR. He's having this lingering hamstring strain. I don't know. This year seems to be the year of the hamstring strains and the concussions for all athletes type of thing. Those are the kind of the top 1 and 2 injuries. But hamstring injuries are very common in football. They placed him on IR I think a week ago, so he's going to be out for another 3 more weeks. And even then, him being their top tight end or one of the franchise players, they're going to probably take some time to bring him back. And then the other thing you also got to consider is where are the Raiders in the playoff hunt? When he's ready to come back in around week 13, week 14, if the Raiders are already kind of pretty much eliminated from the playoffs, they may not be in a hurry to bring him back. They may just kind of take the time and have him ready for next season.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Like you said, we need a couple wins in a row, man. Come on. Let's
Well,
go, silver and black. I'm rooting for him right now.
you got to start with 1 win. They got 1 win, so we'll see.
That's right. We have a few more minutes left in the game, and I want to ask you a LeBron question. So let's go over. Give me your top 3 waiver wire picks this week.
All right, so I'm going to give you a running back, a receiver, and a tight end. These are my top 3, depending on what you have. So right now, we're going to start with the tight end. So the top tight end I probably highly recommend for right now if he's available, and he's actually available. He's only rostered in about 30% of the league, so he's available in 70% of the leagues. Is Juwan Johnson, tight end with the New Orleans Saints. He's had 2 consecutive games. He had a touchdown this weekend type of thing. So if you're in need of a tight end, make sure you kind of pick him up. Juwan Johnson, tight end with the New Orleans Saints. Now, as far as receiver, I'm going to probably go with Demarcus Robinson, wide receiver with the Baltimore Ravens. He's only rostered in about 4% of the leagues. For some reason, he's become Lamar Jackson's go-to receiver ever since Bateman's out. Now, Mark Andrews still his number 1 target, but receiver-wise, Demarcus Robinson has become his number 1 receiver right now in the last 2 weeks. So if you need a receiver, grab him. And then if you need a running back, there's a couple of them. If you had Joe Mixon, you want to grab Sabaji Perine. But the other one I'm kind of looking into right now, which is kind of a little bit interesting. I know we've talked about stay away from all Denver Broncos athletes. I'm going to go with Latavius Murray. Latavius Murray has out-touched Melvin Gordon, and now with Edmund Chase out of the lineup, Latavius Murray should become somewhat of the workhorse in that area, if not the go-to guy with the Denver Broncos.
Yeah, I agree with that. Melvin Gordon, he fumbles. So
correct.
And so I think a lot of people will start losing faith in him, especially on the down the stretch thing. So Latavius Murray, I loved him when he was with the Raiders. So yeah, so that's not a bad pick. He probably had his best years when he was with the Raiders.
Correct.
Also too, I'm gonna stay on the Denver side. He didn't score a lot of points, but he made a couple big plays against the Raiders today. Was Hinton, and he's only at 1% of the league. Hinton. He scored like 10 points today, which isn't great, but definitely Russell was looking for him, a little bit. So he may be a sleeper. He's only at 1% of the league. Kendall Hinton is his name.
Yep, I agree with you. Yeah, now with Jared Jeudy out, Kendall Hilton is kind of like the backup receiver on there, so he's going to get more targets, especially if they're going to cover Cortland Sutton. The opposing team is going to put the number 1 cornerback in Cortland Sutton, so someone else has to be open on that part. And Hinton had a great game last weekend, and he had a pretty decent game this weekend as well.
All right, cool. So I'm throw you a little curveball, Marco, but I know you're gonna be ready for it. So LeBron James, for the record, Lakers are undefeated with LeBron not in the game, but he has an adductor. It was a growing adductor injury, and they basically have him on day to day. How long do you think he could be out? Another week with this injury? He's already been out about a week and a half already.
Yeah.
And what is an adductor? Because at first they said it was a groin, and now they call it an abductor. Is that in the same area? Is it termed it differently?
Yeah. So the adductor is part of the adductor muscles is one of the groin muscles. There's basically 3 adductor muscles or 3 groin muscles. So whenever they say groin muscle, there's the adductor. So the adductor muscle is one of the ones that it's part of the groin muscle, groin muscle group type of thing. So yeah, so he has a groin strain. Now, I know they haven't disclosed whether it's a first degree or second degree groin strain, so that's going to kind of be significant enough to try to determine what's going to be the timeline. If it's something mild and I think is day to day, we would probably expect it out anywhere between 1 to 2 weeks. If it's a second degree, we're probably looking more anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks minimum of him being out. It's just a matter of probably we're going to probably have to wait and see when he returns to practice. I think that's going to be the key component. They can say day to day till the cows come home, but not until he returns to practice. Then that's going to begin the process of him returning to back to the court for games type of thing.
Yeah, so he's previously had this groin injury last year, so it's probably re-aggravated. You think?
Well, I mean, he had it last year, and he also had it 2 years ago. If you guys recall,
Right.
the same thing.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's the left or right from this year, and I don't
It's
recall.
the left. It's the left. It's the
The
left
left.
this year.
What was it last year? In the year, I'm trying to remember what
I-
the one last.
I don't recall, but I know now it's the left for sure.
So yeah, so the question is, did he? It's kind of it's going to be very difficult to say that he re-aggravated the same groin muscle from the year before. But can this be a compensatory pattern that he's kind of developing type of thing? He is getting a little bit older. Issues start kind of rising, which is normal. It's expected type of thing. So it's just a matter of kind of managing his load and seeing where he's at type of thing.
All right. Sounds good to me. Hey, look, Lakers are undefeated while he's gone, so I'm okay with them taking as much rest as they can.
Take his time.
That's right. Hey, you know what? Hey, Marco, thanks a lot. This was great. Waiver Wire. Hope we were able to help out everybody. If you want more updates, follow us on Instagram, the Waiver Wire Pod, TikTok, and all those at Waiver Wire Pod, and we'll see you next week, Marco.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks a lot.